Hey everyone, welcome for this webinar where we talk about Rayfin from vibe to production. So for those of you who are new to the concept of Rayfin, it's an open source engine which was recently announced under Microsoft Fabric Apps. And I would say that's a missing last mile between your data and your operations. Maybe raise your hands for those who have used AI tool to build something like maybe a script, an app, or a macro in the last 6 months. Okay, I see hands up. Keep your hands up, please. So I see at least 4 hands up. Keep your hand up now if you made it into your daily use at work, whatever you built. Okay, that's great. Keep it up now if you have productionized it, deployed it to production. Well, I see at least some hands going down. At least one hand went down. To be realistic about this, right? There is a gap between what AI helps us build and what actually ships. That's going to be the entire subject for the next 45 minutes. At Build 2026, Rayfin was announced. And I think it's the most practical answer to that gap I've seen. One promise before we start, whether you write code or have never touched a terminal, you leave knowing exactly what this is and why it matters and what to do about it. Thank you for raising your hands and participating in that survey. Before we jump into the content, if you'd like to follow us, stay connected with our webinars, please do so. There's a QR code that you would be able to scan and then follow us on LinkedIn. All of our webinars and summits, technical deep dives and all are announced in LinkedIn. So please do give us a follow if you'd love to stay tuned about it. And for those of you who are new to Concurrency, we are a Microsoft solution partner and ServiceNow consulting firm. And we help organizations get the most out of their technology investments. Yeah, feel free to scan them, or if you are on LinkedIn already, search us and give us a follow. All right, that being said, here's a roadmap for today. 5 stops. And it's the same structure as our AI Summit session. For those of you who have attended that, we'll start with the problem, concept, mechanics, proof, and action. One note on depth. I'm going to say that loudly so that nobody's surprised. Stops 1 and 2 are for everyone. Stop 3 can get a little bit technical for about roughly say 10 minutes. If that's not your world, watch for the plain English strip at the bottom of every slide. The demo is where everyone converges, because watching an app appear out of one command, it wouldn't need any translation, I hope. Planning to do some live demos. So, all right. These are 2 numbers from the build, and they tell us a story. Agentic coding, an AI agent writing substantial part of the software, grew 76% in a year. But 4 out of 5 AI-generated apps never make it to production. Not because the code is bad, because there's no database provisioned, no sign-in wired up, no security review, no answer for the auditor. Not so technical folks in this meeting, the analogy is like, imagine your team could design and build a car in a weekend, but registering it, like insuring it or, getting the license plates takes about 9 months. That's enterprise software right now. Now, hold on to that feeling. Everything that follows is about collapsing that period, like that 9 months, right? So this slide is lifted almost verbatim from the build session because it's the most honest framing of the problem I've seen from Microsoft. Left side is what a developer or an AI agent acting as one has to assemble before an app is real. On the right side, what your IT team is accountable for no matter who built the app. Nothing on the right is optional and nothing on the right is fun. Every shadow IT horror story your organization has lived through happened because someone did the left column and they kind of overlooked or skipped the right entirely, or at least a part of it. The pitch for the day is, what if the right column came for free? A quick recap for anyone who missed our AI Summit session. Let me give you a 30-second context. We used a demo retail chain as our example company with daily sales, product stores, etc. And what we call as freezer telemetry, like IoT temperature sensors inside the stored freezers, streaming readings all day so you can spot a freezer drifting into the warm territory before the ice cream melts. We took the raw data, cleaned it through the bronze, silver, gold layers you see on the screen, added an ontology so AI speaks our business language, and finished with a data agent anyone could question in plain English. It landed well, and the most common follow-up question was, the agent told me which freezers are failing. Now, who builds the app that schedules the repair, right? So that's the last mile. Analytics and agents produce insight, right? Operations run on apps. So until now, those apps lived outside of the governed estate we just built. Keeping that retail data in mind, building apps on that governed model is exactly where this leads us, right? So we want agents to do actions based on findings, right? That makes the picture complete. What is Rayfin? It's an open source toolkit, genuinely open, like MIT license, or it's on GitHub today, that lets a developer or an AI agent describe an app's backend in code and then deploys that backend inside Microsoft Fabric with one command. I mean, something as easy as one command. I'm not saying always one command, but like something as easy as one command. In the Fabric product list, it surfaces as a new item type called Fabric Apps, and that's currently in preview. The analogy that I stuck when I explained this to the slightly non-technical people, Fabric is the estate. Rayfin is like the building permit plus the utilities hookup. You don't negotiate with 5 utility companies every time you build a house on a governed land, right? So that's the whole idea. Let's look at this. This is a Microsoft architecture picture rerun a little bit. The top half is the build loop, an AI agent, GitHub Copilot, Claude, Replit's agent, or a human developer who works with Rayfin SDK, which authors the app's backend as ordinary code in your repository. The bottom half is what deploying produces, not a random cloud VM, but managed services inside Fabric. So it could be a database, a one-link storage, real-time capabilities, serverless functions, authentications, etc., etc. So the two halves are the two audiences in this room. Like builders live in the top box. Everyone accountable for governance lives in the bottom one. So Rayfin is like the arrow between them. This is a preview of the command that you're going to hopefully see when I show this all live. On the left is a slightly abridged transcript of the deploy command. You will see the real, when we do the live demo, hopefully. So you can see it's pretty much a single command, right? It creates an app as an item in a Fabric workspace, generates a database from the code, wires at the onto sign in, deploys the front end, and hands you a URL. Now, if we connect this to the opening stat, 4 in 5 AI-built apps die before production. And what kills them is almost never the code. It's the plumbing, right? Standing up a database, wiring a sign-in, getting hosting approved, passing a security review. So in a normal enterprise project, that plumbing is weeks to months of tickets, meetings, and reviews. This one command, well, although in a small scale, did all of it, right? In about a minute, inside the platform you already govern. So that's a headline here, right? So for engineers, yes, the API layer is GraphQL over Data API Builder, and the SQL database comes with a read-only analytics endpoint. So we'll see that in the demo. So this workspace picture is a mock-up of the example delivery app. It's not deployed, So in this particular slide, you can see that this is what pretty much your CISO or Chief Information Security Officer would want to see. When a Rayfin app deploys, 3 items will appear in the workspace. The app itself, the database, in this case, it's a SQL database, and a SQL analytics endpoint sitting right next to the reports and semantic models they relate to. It's like think of it like a mock-up. We can see that, live in the demo when I show you. And here you can see that everything is co-located within the Fabric workspace. And why does it really matter? Why does co-location matter? Because everything you already do to govern that workspace, like roles, permissions, auditing, capacity monitoring, Fabric will cover that, right? Like it's covered within the Fabric ecosystem. Now let's contrast that with the usual story. The app could live in some SaaS tool or a personal cloud subscription, and IT finds about it during an incident. Here, there's no finding out. The app is born governed. So let's look at what an app's data model looks like. It's a single TypeScript class, and that class is a database table. Each field becomes a typed column. The many decorator declares a relationship between tables. And the part I care most about as an architect is that role block that you can see over there. That's a role level security sitting right next to the data definition. What does that mean? It means a user only gets the rows that they can see. It is enforced by the platform on every request, not by hoping that the front end will filter it correctly, right? It's a security you can code review rather than a security you can document, right? So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. So the security is built in while the app is being built in Fabric. Governance comes as a part of this. All right, so let's look at what ships inside every template. This is a tell that Rayfin was designed agent first, not like agent compatible. Agents.markdown is documentation written for the AI that will extend the app. MCP servers are live tools that let AI inspect the project. The scaffold assumes your next developer is an agent and prepares onboarding docs for it, the way we prepare them for a new hire, right? So there is a replicate quote at the bottom, right? And that earns its place for one reason. It shows the strategy, right? It's the CEO of a company whose entire business is in AI app building, saying like agents write the code anywhere, but the data, identity, and governance stay in the customer's own Fabric tenant. So creativity anywhere, custody with you. For business leaders, that division of labor is a pattern to demand from every AI tool you adopt. So there is also a feature to build an app on your semantic model. Most of you, I hope, are familiar with semantic model. So it is, think of it like a layer that talks between your report and your backend data storage, where you establish your relationships between your different entities or tables and apply your business rules for calculations, roll-ups, and whatnot, and conversion of your technical language to business language, right? So that's semantic model. Power BI users know that. So this was built by a Power BI team, right? The workflow is like paste a share link to a semantic model and tell the agent what app do you want. And it builds an app that queries a model live using DAX queries, right? It's a way of querying a semantic model. So the two properties that this makes this enterprise safe rather than anything else, like, the metrics cannot fork. The app reads the same measure definitions as every report. So revenue could mean the same thing everywhere, right? And permissions cannot be bypassed. Row-level security follows the sign-in user, right? So beyond the templates, apps can also mount data you already govern, like warehouse tables, analytic endpoints, through a connectors mechanism, with Fabric's permissions staying in front. For today's demo, in the interest of time, we'll be using a to-dos app to keep it all within the time frame that we have. All right, so let's go to a live demo. Let me keep a track of time. If there are questions, please throw them in the chat. I might not be able to see raised hands. So Amy, who is with us, will help me with those questions. She'll read out and then I'll try to answer that. But let me set up my screen so that I can show you a demo here. Bear with me a second. Share my screen again. Hopefully you can see my screen again. So I in fact was testing all this. So I have a backup copy if in case we have some glitches while I'm showing this demo. So I'm going to try to do it all fresh for us. So wish me luck. So for those of you who are new to Fabric, there is a concept called workspaces. Workspaces is like a way wherein you can organize all your objects, storage objects, your different apps, semantic layers and stuff, and you can assign a workspace to a specific capacity in Fabric so that you have control over your compute needs. So I'm just going to name this Rayfin. You can see that I'm going to use one of our trial capacities. Well, not trial capacity, but like it's named as planned capacity. So you can see this workspace is pretty much fresh, new, nothing in here. Had there been anything, like it would have shown those items over here. I'm going to try to use this particular workspace, and I'm going to try to create an app. Let me. Oops. All right. Hopefully the font is big enough for us to see. So you can see that the npm create Microsoft Rayfin at latest, that's a single command. Once I've installed the npm, excuse me. It asks you, hey, how would you like to start? You can use a template, or if you have an external Git template for an app, you can use it, or you can configure manually by starting from scratch. So I'm going to just use a template for now. I'm going to use the third option, a to-do app, just to enter our to-do list, right? So let's see what that does. All right, I'm going to name it to-dos. So now it's synchronizing with the latest Rayfin scaffolding. It says the project created successfully. I'm going to change directory to that. I'm going to run dev. So now it asks us, like, hey, what is that Fabric workspace that you want this app to be deployed in? Now I'm going to give the new Rayfin workspace that I've just created so that the app gets deployed there. You can see that it's coming through, right? An app was built real time. You can see that. It also wired up a backend database. I did not have to configure it separately. I did not have to worry about like the wiring and all. So it did all of that in the backend. And one beautiful thing about Fabric is that whenever Fabric creates a storage, like your one-link storage, it creates a SQL analytics at the backend as well. I need to see if it is reusing one of the ports that I already have created. Let's see. Okay, so Entra sign-in is built in. I'm using that. It's a local host. I'm just showing that in my local machine, what the app is. So Entra sign-in is the way that you sign into the app. Okay, cool. The app is there. It is built. Right? So you can pretty much see it's a to-dos app. You can pretty much add items. You can check them as done, right? There is an action item to open it in Fabric. You can also open that in Fabric, which is awesome. So this app is not available yet because it's a brand new app. Give it a couple of minutes and it'll start showing up there. It'll be exactly like how it is being shown over here. So, all right. So we can actually edit the app using GitHub Copilot Chat, but I want to show you the scaffolding, the backend before we go there. I'm just going to say, check here. I'm going to publish this app. Just going to say npx Rayfin app so that it publishes the front end. Once the app is published, what you get is a shareable URL, right? So what I'm showing, this app is in my, as you can see, it's in localhost with a port of 5174. Once the app is published, it says your app is live at this particular URL, right? So you copy that URL if you want to share that with someone. I'm going to try to see if I can see that app through the shareable URL. See how fast and how easy it is, right? So that's my point here. With all the governance within the Fabric's ecosystem, right? Think about your object level security, authentications, and row level securities that you might have built in the backend, right? So it's the exact same app that I was showing you in my local machine over here with the same status. So you can see that like all the first three to-do list has been checked as done. And I'm going to check because I just published the Rayfin, the front end to a shareable URL as well. So I'm going to just check this. Now, before we go to anything else, I want to show you how the backend looks like, right? Go in here, go to Fabric. I was telling you, like, this is the app. This is the Fabric workspace. And you can see that the app is there. And you can also see that in the, like the services that is available in the Fabric list, right? When you add a new item, if you go ahead and add a new item, this will be shown as an application. And you can see that the backend database is configured. Let's go ahead and look at the data. I'm going to open it. Right. It created a backend database called to-dos, going to DBO schema. So it created two tables, right? Like so it came as a part of the template. You can see the 4 to-do items that I had. So I'm going to add an item like test line item. Let's see. Okay, it got added. Now let's go look at the backend, right? So this is the backend. It had all those 4 items. I'm going to run this again so that the data gets refreshed. Well, you can see I'm going to order by. By created at. That. You can see the last item that I just added, test line item. And it's not completed, right? Because I just had not. Well, where is it? Oh, here. Okay. I had not checked this, right? I'm going to check it. Click it again. Going back. I'm going to close this window so that we are not confused. Run it again. Now that false should turn to true, right? So think of this like your transactional database, right? You have your application running and your data getting registered in the backend. So this is pretty much your transactional database. And going back to, these are my trials so that I was getting ready for our demo over here. Now I'm going to open up a SQL Analytics endpoint as well. And some of you might ask, like, hey, why do you, I'm going to close these. Why do you need a SQL Analytics endpoint? So think of it like it's like your read-only schema, right, for your analytics, so that you can actually have separation of concern between your transactional database and your analytical needs, right? And what I would like to call out is that the sync between the backend transactional database and the SQL Analytics endpoint is also managed by Fabric. So there's no, you could see that I just built it all in one command, and there's no ETL pipeline that refreshes the data between the backend and the SQL Analytics endpoint. So in a regular analytics scenario, you would want to do that. Like you would want to build an ETL pipeline for your analytics or warehousing needs. Again, doing a created at order by. You can see that all the items are there. The last item that I just created is also there in the analytics endpoint. Now, the good part is in a SQL Analytics endpoint, you can also create a semantic model if you wish, right? So for those of you who have done Power BI, you can see that, you know like what a semantic model is. Enter a semantic model name. So I'm going to say Rayfin to-dos. All right, confirming. So this will help you build analytics, your Power BI dashboards on top of it. All right. We can see that both the tables that I selected are available right now. I'm just going to say, hey, user ID is user ID. Just going to join them. And cardinality is many to one. Assume referential integrity. Save it for now. They're there, right? Let's build a new report. Up here, Power BI report. You can see my to-dos table. Remember, it all came from our app. Close this. These are my old ones. It all came from our to-dos app. Okay. So going back to, so I'm going to use this table to-dos, and I'm going to just use a tabular visualization for now. I'm going to just minimize the screen so that we have more real estate. And then, oh, I just want title, created at, and the status. Like this, right? Not going to worry about any beautifications for now. Values so that we can see them. Hopefully. Yeah. Not going to worry about any painting effects, any beautification, just making sure that this is readable in the shared screen. So you can pretty much see if I were to sort this and the last line item that I added, right? Let's go ahead back to the app. Another item. Just adding it. All right, let's come back. What is this? Is this an analytical endpoint? Let's first check the transaction database first. Okay, another item is added and it's not checked. You can see that. There will be a little bit of delay between SQL Analytic endpoint and the transactional database. I want to call that out. And as I expected, because there is Fabric works, it syncs the analytic endpoint based on a schedule. So that's an schedule within. So once that is refreshed, all we need to do is like refresh the semantic layer and pretty much the data will be available. So any changes that you're making to your transactional database gets into the SQL Analytics endpoint and can get refreshed by the semantic layer, and you have analytics right there. And as I was saying, you can flip this, you can use semantic layer as your data input to your application as well, so that if there are curated data sets in your warehouse or something, and you're considering that as a single source of truth for your analytics, that can pretty much be used as the source for your backend. Now I'm gonna try one more. I have this VS Code over here. And wow. Oh, this one. So this is the structure of these files. You saw that I just created that to-dos app, right? This is a scaffolding. This is a structure of everything that Rayfin created in the backend. So it's a full-fledged app. Now that it is there, you can actually create it. You can actually ask enhancements using Copilot, agentic mode, right? Wish me luck. So the prompt that I'm adding to Copilot is add an optional priority field like low, medium, high to the to-dos. Make it optional on the entity so existing rows remain valid. We don't want to make it mandatory, because if it is mandatory, God knows what happens to the ones that, because that'll become invalid, because they wouldn't have any data unless we see it with some default data. And I'm asking you to show it as a colored chip in the list. And add a filter for the high priority items, right? Update every place that validates or creates to-dos. So adding a task still works. So I'm asking to be cognizant of the entire code repository here. And I'm particularly asking not to change the author role policies. This is, again, this is having access to a prompt and a good model does not mean that it'll always turn out to be right. You have to make sure that the prompt is explicit enough, and a good software engineer or an architect will be able to. It's always valuable so that they can ask. They can prompt it properly and think about any loopholes and try to explicitly ask that in the prompt. It's asking GPT. It's using GPT 5.4 mini right now. My earlier trial was with Opus 5.0, Claude's Opus 5.0. Let's see if one does it better. So yeah, it's reading through the entire file and trying to make those changes. We'll have to give it some time because last time I did it, it took at least a good couple of minutes or more. Meanwhile, let's go back and keep our app ready over here. This is the app, and I'm going to keep this thumbnail also ready over here. I don't need this. Slightly decreasing the font over here. So let it do the cooking, I would say, because it's a model making all of those changes. So the point I'm trying to make is, it was one command and it built an app from a pre-existing template. You could have very well built it from any other template that you already have, and it wired up all the connections from the app to the backend under one single governance within Fabric. I just built a semantic layer, established the connections for Power BI, and I built a bare bone Power BI dashboard. And every time the data refreshes in the app, exactly like how an ETL would be able to see it, it sees the data, right? So this is now, I was talking about SQL Analytics endpoint taking some time to actually show this. All right, I'm going to allow this on the Copilot side. So you can see that now the SQL Analytics endpoint is also refreshed with the additional items that I added. Say a lot. Let's, in the meanwhile, see our way we can refresh this. I'm going to go here, back. There's a Rayfin semantic model. Refresh that. Now the semantic model is getting refreshed. Hopefully my Power BI shows that data. There's a test line item. Yeah, it's refreshing. Yes, there you go. It just added this line item with the is complete is gone false. So think of it like, think of it, right? Like it's a transactional data. Your application wrote data to your backend. Without an ETL, your analytics endpoint got refreshed by Fabric itself. You didn't have to run any pipeline. You did not have to ingest anything. Your once your semantic layer is refreshed, which you can trigger using periodic schedule or something like that. Power BI refreshes, right? There is analytics on top of the data as well. Now, Copilot agentic mode says it's all done, which is good. Let's try this, right? So I'm going to deploy that changes. Let's see. All right. So let's go ahead and go check our app. I'm going to do a hard refresh. Let it load. Did you see that a new priority label is added right now? This is what we prompted, right? So here, add a new priority label, right? Let's see. I'm going to add new priority label. So I just did an application change using agentic AI now. I'm going to set the priority to low and try to add it. There you go. In the prompt, if you remember the prompt, I had add an optional priority field, low, medium, high, make it optional. update every place, and then show it as a colored chip in the list, right? So that's what it is doing. Low is green. So again, large language model, right? Kind of displaying that, although it was not explicit in my instructions, right? Testing medium line item. Here, I'm going to set the priority to medium. It has a yellow colored chip. Testing high pri line item. Setting it as a high, adding it. There you go. Green, yellow, and red, all added. So I just changed my app using agentic AI, using Copilot, right? So again, to summarize, the app was built with one command. It did all the scaffolding, all the wiring, all the backend provision, all the analytics endpoint in a Fabric ecosystem where it is well governed. I could go ahead and build a semantic layer and Power BI on top of it. And then I thought like, hey, let me add something to the app, and that is done, right? Just refreshing, not my analytics endpoint. Here, the transaction table, because that's the first point of entry. You can pretty much see that. Let me expand this a little bit. All the line items that I just added, new priority label, medium line item, and high priority line items where I have not checked anything to be done, is all added with their respective timestamps, right? Could be, universal time or whatnot. Analytics endpoint, as I said, could take some internal refresh time. Oh, it's refreshed. That's awesome. So we timed it in such a way that, it got refreshed quick as well. Now, if the semantic layer gets refreshed, you'll be able to see that data. I'm not going to do that, but you get the idea, right? Where's my report? But the data will be, let's do it. Let it get refreshed. And it's done. Now, going back. Do I need to refresh anything? Yeah. Just going to say file, save. BI. Just saved my report. I did not get it. Oh, here. Come on. Well, the expectation is that the reports get refreshed. All right. In the interest of time, I'm not going to worry about it. But you get the idea. You saw the dashboard getting refreshed earlier. So I'm going to switch back to my slide to cover any points, because a large part of what I wanted to cover in this demonstration was like, hey, let's see the Rayfin app working. Let's see the scaffolding, what we do and stuff. And this demonstration was just limited to building a to-dos app. So, but you get the idea, right? Like, we can get creative about this. We can just go ahead and build pretty much anything that we want, right? With these features. So yeah, like, you saw the live demo, not gonna, you saw that, like, this is like, hey, let's time. Like you get an idea how long it took to actually build the app and how long it took to build the backend scaffolding, how long it took to update the data and such. I'm not gonna read through all of that. It was just, you all saw it live. Happy that it all worked out. And you saw, what the database is, the backends, the analytics loop and such. One thing I would call out is like the SQL database can be altered in the backend. So and I would caution us never do that, because the source of truth is always the code. If you want to do any structures, always do that through the code base and not changing the backend. Because if you change the backend, it will be like much like you change the backend of an application without letting the application's code base know about it. So the code could break, or the code will probably be unaware of that changes. So I would recommend not doing any indirect database changes. Always make the code changes to the application. I wanted to pick a live feature, but I think we covered the concept there, like by adding a button through Copilot. It would have been interesting if we had some time, but I'm gonna skip through that for now. So you get the idea, right? We are asking the Copilot agent. We saw the code changing, and then we need to deploy the changed code by running npx Rayfin up. We can pretty much see those files getting changed and stuff in real time, and whatever we have asked the agentic AI to build. Hopefully, always test it out. Always test it out, right? Again, at the end of the day, it's large language models, non-deterministic models. They could make mistakes, make hallucinations. They could overlook certain things. So always test your app out. Again, this entire feature is in preview, but it's a very promising feature, right? Like the greatest part is that the template itself ships, the agents.markdown file and the MCP servers for other agents to agentic tools to work. If we zoom in all the way out, just keeping a track of time here, one slide version of the last two talks for those of you who have attended our AI summit. This is the pipeline we all know, right? Sources through the data gets sourced through the bronze, silver, gold medallion structure to the semantic model and ontology where meaning lives. From that same governed core, two branches grow, right? One is the agents answer, which was covered as a part of our AI summit, and then the applications act, right? That's what you pretty much watch today. We are building and deploying an app within the Fabric ecosystem, either the app writing the data to a relational database, or using an analytics one lake data source as your application's backend, right? So the arrow at the bottom part, I find it genuinely elegant, right? The apps write their data back into one lake where it's just instantly analyzable and agent readable. The insights produces actions, right? Actions produce data. Data produces insight. So that covers the loop, right? So it's not a slogan. You watched it happen. Yeah, this is an honest read, right? I'm very enthusiastic about this. Some honest read about all this, right? It's a preview, and I don't think Microsoft has announced a GA date yet. So the capabilities and pricing can change under you. The region list is short, so check your Fabric capacity region before promising anyone anything. Sign-in is Entra only, so nothing customer-facing yet. And the CLI cannot log in as a service principal, which makes real CI/CD automation clumsy for now. So the schema is code owned. As I've already covered that part, the app's table structure is generated from the code. So please don't do any backend changes directly. And these apps are excellent at what most internal apps actually are, like forms, trackers, consoles, approvals, and whatnot, right? Read rows, write rows. I wouldn't recommend this for heavy transaction processing yet. Think about an order system that must update inventory, payment, shipping as one all or nothing operation, right? Like thousands of times a minute. This app could not be the right tool, right? And at least it's not there yet. Pick a single app shaped problems, right? So none of this disqualifies a pilot. All of it disqualifies rebuilding an order system. Let's go ahead and rebuild with this. So that's not what you should think of. Think about small applications that you can build. And again, in the pilot mode. So if you lead a business unit, you have a backlog of small apps you never staffed, like trackers, request forms, lead consoles, because none of them justified a 3-month project. The cost of those just fell to days, right? And not months. And because governance comes built in, saying yes to them, it's not risky anymore. And if you're a data or a BI person, you are also a winner in this part, right? Like the semantic models that you've been curating over time, it's not just to fuel the reports, right? They become the foundation people build applications on. And apps built this way cannot fork your metrics definitions, right? So single source of truth concept. So if you're in IT or security, people will build apps with AI, whether you sanction it or not, right? So this is the version where it happens inside your perimeter, your identity system, your permissions, your audit trial, your security, and such. Yeah, think of it like it's in preview. It's like, so do not promise your customers anything. that being said, yeah, there are five things to remember, right? Like it removed the bottleneck, right? Writing software, job being the expensive part, governing it's built within Fabric now, right? Rayfin is the last mile, which actually makes two operations, right? On top of the data. Governance is built in with the app. Data is state is the moat. Everything you watched today stood on the semantic model and ontology. Well, not ontology. We didn't, that was part of the AI summit. In fact, governance comes built in as a part of this Fabric ecosystem is the biggest moat that I can call. It's in preview. You can start the pilot this month, and there's a one contained workload named honor. Production can wait. You can, but learning does not have to. That's all I wanted to share. This is the last slide. You'll get a survey. So please feel free to fill out that survey so that, we can help improve. I mean, that'll help us improve our demo, these marketing demonstrations on our side. So yeah, I have prepared a handout. I'll be sending that out. And these are certain URLs. Like if you want to know more about Rayfin, you can go to aks.ms. There's a community on GitHub. There is also an announcement channel, which has been there from June 2026. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. I hope the live demo was helpful and this presentation was helpful. Yeah, I know that we ran a couple of minutes over. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much. If you get time, please share your feedback.